Man in motion across the formation to the left is Calvin Ridley. Shotgun snap to the rookie quarterback. In the pocket, he's dancing. He's got time. Links it up. It's picked up. Kenny Moore's going the other way. A house call. An interception and a touchdown. A pick six for Kenny Moore in the left flat. And that's one of the more easier pick sixes you're ever going to see. And the Colts defense starts the scoring party early at 6-0. It brings up 3rd and 7. And DJ Giddens is now in the ballgame now as the running back to the right of Jones. With the crowd making some noise here at Nissan Stadium. 3 receivers go left for the Colts. Back and throw. Jones in trouble. In the pocket. Turns away from traffic. Now he's going to take off and run. He's at the 40. He's at the 35. He's at the 30 with a first down. Gives himself up at the 25-yard line and scrambles upfield for 17 yards. Daniel Jones and the troops at the line of scrimmage here. Ball on the right hash. Taylor, the running back, left. Shotgun snap to Jones. Hand off to Taylor. Looking to slice his way across the goal line, and he does, but there is a flag on the play. For the time being, it's a touchdown run of 1 yard out by Jonathan Taylor.
Offside defense, number 98, lined up in the neutral zone. That foul's declined.
It is on the Titans. The Colts decline it and take the touchdown. Jones over the middle, flies it upfield. Michael Pittman Jr. inside the 5, looking for the end zone. He's in. He stretched the ball across the goal line. Touchdown, Michael Pittman Jr. Yards after the catch, 20 yards to pay dirt. Touchdown, INDY. Daniel Jones under center, I formation. Tyler Warren is the H-back. They give it to Taylor right up the gut. Big hole, 40. Cuts back to his right. Spinning upfield, still going. Good. Slips out of a tackle. He's at the 20. He's at the 10. He's at the 5. Touchdown! Jonathan Taylor rips it from 46 yards out. Touchdown, INDY. Yes, sir. 33-13 in favor of the Colts. Jones out of the gun. Taylor's his running back to the left. 3 receivers deployed to the right side. They give it to Taylor. Looking for the end zone. Lowers the shoulders. He's in. Touchdown. Jonathan Taylor. 3 rushing scores today for JT. And the Colts have put up 40 on their division rivals on the road. The Colts victorious today on the Ruoff Mortgage scoreboard. It's the Colts 41 and the Tennessee Titans 20.
The Ride with JMV, 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
That's Matt Taylor, Charles Arbuckle on the Colts Radio Network broadcast from yesterday. Welcome in. Thank you all for joining us on this Monday. It is rainy. Really the first day, I think, in the month of September. It feels like that the month, weather-wise, has let us down. It is letting us down. And maybe for a couple of days leading into, but officially the first day of fall as we celebrated September and Earth, Wind, and Fire. CBS celebrated it last night, too, by the way. But we celebrate this Colts team going 3-0 to start the season. The L.A. Rams on the road in Southern California. Coming up on Sunday afternoon, we shall talk about that. IU, a tremendous win over Illinois. Noah Eagle had the call on NBC and Peacock, and Noah's going to join us coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll talk about that game and where this Hoosier team is right now. How good are you feeling about it? They get Iowa on the road in Iowa City at Kinnick this weekend. And then on the road in Eugene versus Oregon. Now, first, the Ducks have to go to Happy Valley and play Penn State in a battle of top 8 teams coming up this weekend. And we'll see IU on the road to start in Iowa City coming up on Saturday. But, man, you talk about an ass whipping. 63-10. It felt very, and believe me, I would be one that would know because I'm Mr. Indiana State around here. It felt like Indiana State. It felt like Indiana State, not a top 10 team in the nation. And Brett Bielema, after the game, the head coach of Illinois, kind of owned everything, how bad they were, how dominant IU was. And a shout-out to everybody that attended. Actually, we're going to give a couple of shout-outs to folks that attended. Those down in Bloomington, that looked like a fantastic atmosphere. Except for the video I saw where 2 older ladies were fighting during a tailgate. That's not good video. Stop that. But otherwise, everything looked like one hellaciously awesome time. And then those that are Colts fans that made the trip down to Nashville, you got to sit back, relax, throw down some ice-cold beers, and not worry about a darn thing. The Colts did what the Colts were supposed to do. In fact, we did the Colts pregame huddle yesterday, and Casey Valier said, this is like BTO, Bachman-Turner overdrive, taking care of business. That's exactly what the Colts did, because the Titans had no business themselves being anywhere near the general vicinity. They're a grease fire. Every single play, it felt like. I was surprised when there was not a flag thrown on them. And believe me, Colts fans know this to be true, and it is relatively recent history. You know what that feels like. You know exactly what that feels like. So that probably solidified your thoughts on how much better this is now than how much worse it was when you had to go through that. And again, it's recent memory. 41-20, the final. Jonathan Taylor, 17 for 102 and 3 TDs if you had him like James does in fantasy. He carried your squad. There's no doubt about that. Daniel Jones continues to just go out there and play at a consistent high level. He does what he's called upon to do, and it's not one of these, well, he's managing the game stuff, which is a backhanded compliment. And he's not doing anything that would be considered outside the box. This is what has been amazing through the first 3 games, no matter the level of competition. I don't even want to argue about that right now. But no matter the level of competition, what really does impress me the most is he just does and performs at a high level whatever he is called upon to do. It's kind of like the Colts are like Dave Grohl. You're going to go, what? This sounds like something Jake Query would say, and I don't mean to. I feel like I'm taking Jake's gig right here. I don't mean to. But Dave Grohl, hey, here's an instrument. He plays it. Hey, here's a microphone. He talks into it. He sings into it. The same thing for Prince. Yeah, whatever you want Prince to do, he's going to do it. And do it at a high level. And do it at a results-driven high level. That's what Daniel Jones has done so far. Jake and I were talking about this during the crossover brought to you by Love Heating and Air, love-hvac.com. Today, we were talking about, because he had brought up, and I may have taken that a little bit out of context, and certainly I wasn't mad about it, but I think you know my stance with because people have asked me this before. Do you feel like you should apologize to the Colts? Or no, hell no. Why should I apologize to the Colts? What they're doing right now through 3 games, they're delivering for you. For the first time in forever. They give you a reason to feel good. They give you a reason on Monday to be excited about their team, to stay up and watch 59 overtime, to hang around more often and for more time these radio shows. Whereas it wears you out when we constantly have to bash them, which has basically been the baseline of this squad for the past more than a handful of years. So, apologies, no. They are delivering, and in fact, they're delivering in ways and means in which they have told us before they were gonna, but didn't. That's a good thing. I'm not worried about when this is going to end. I'm not worried about whether or not it ends in Southern California because the Rams are a good team. They screwed the pooch royally yesterday at the end of that game. Yeah, the only way, by the way, if there is going to be a bad beat over the course of this season in the NFL that's worse than that yesterday in Philly, please show me the luxury of pointing it out. That's the only way that I could have lost the Larceny Bourbon Locks and the Luna Azul Tequila shots with the Rams and the Eagles. That's the only way that those of us that went with the Rams and the points could have lost. On the final play, and that's exactly what happened. Luckily, I'm not a huge betting guy or even at all a betting guy. But that was the absolute worst of the bad beats. That is still a Rams team, however, that is really good. And you have a Colts team that's going to be without Kenny Moore for the next at least couple of weeks. Alec Pierce is in concussion protocol. And we all know how that goes, and we'll follow that story. Looks like Mike Hilton, I know reportedly, has been brought in. He was a guy that had worked out kind of a slot corner situation. I'd mentioned that last week to Mike Chappell on a Thursday anyway. And basically all it took was 3 days. Now, I will say this. You're saying, well, it's good fortune you're talking about. Now all of a sudden you got some injuries. I will tell you this, that Charvarius Ward, he went through concussion protocol, missed a game, and then came back. And hopefully more can be said regarding Kenny Moore getting back as quickly as possible. And Alec Pierce, too. But you do feel, don't you, more confident that they're able to sustain. And simply put, it's not been the quarterback. And it's not been Jonathan Taylor. And nothing against anybody. I don't want to see any of these guys be injured. For more than anything else, I want to see them be able to deliver out there. And there is certainly a different looking vibe with these guys when they're playing. There is more of a confidence. There is certainly more of an enthusiasm because they, like you, the fan, they see those positive results. The only thing that I can muster last night on Fox 59 Overtime to Hagan, one, I think I did talk about the injuries in the secondary. I may have mentioned Hilton last night on 59 Overtime. But the only thing that I could muster as a criticism, at some point, a couple of things are going to get you. And one starts with the lack of pressure. I'm going to square this off in two different categories, too. There is the lack of pressure, and then there is the most noted and certainly more important lack of consistent pressure. You're really not getting either one of those. You didn't get that yesterday in Nashville. That is problematic because Cam Ward may not be able to do anything with that as a rookie in the NFL, but Matthew Stafford might be able to. Kyler Murray may be able to. Geno Smith, depending upon which Geno Smith is out there, may be able to. Others on this schedule, Trevor Lawrence, C.J. Stroud, getting up off the mat, may be able to. And what it is, it comes at a good time because this is something you can recognize and hopefully deal with right now while you're 3-0. It's not like you're trying to chase down somebody in front of you. Now you're the lead dog and everybody's going to be smelling your rear end trying to catch up with you. That's the beauty of it. But make no mistake, that and the whole linebacker situation, we're going to revisit this one of these days, and we're going to wish that probably Lou Anarumo had a little bit more care and thought regarding the linebackers. I don't know about anybody else, but I felt this with the Broncos, and I felt this yesterday. I thought if they would have both teams, Tennessee and the Broncos, put a little bit more focus on the run game, that the Colts would have had more of an issue or more of a problem in both games with it. And they had a significant issue with it against Denver. That is something right now that you will occasionally lose because your sights are set on what they've accomplished, and there is nothing wrong with that. But there's also nothing wrong with, again, being the leader within the division and feeling good about it, while also you got to figure out these two things. I think teams should be able to, if they wanted to, consistently run the ball against the Colts. And I think that certainly there is not much thought put into quarterback pressure. These are a couple of things that you want to see this team work out. But again, it is not the normal stuff that we talk about this time of year. Quarterback play, lack of wide receivers, lack of offensive production. All that stuff has been taken care of, and you absolutely should feel good about that. But now is the time to address those needs of which that you certainly notice. And I think those two stood out in a game that really had no loss consequence whatsoever in 41-20. The Titans had no chance. They weren't likely going to do it themselves because more than likely they're going to screw themselves. And that is where they are right now. Everybody's all over Brian Callahan and wanting to get him canned and, waiting on Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward one of these days is going to be a good quarterback, but that day is not today. And that team is absolutely not today. And the Colts did yesterday to the Titans what a Colts team that you feel good about, that was the test. Last week was a test against a good defense, against a better team. This Sunday is going to be a test against a better team on the road. Yesterday was a test to see if you can just handle success and put down a team that you're just simply put much better at. That's it. For lack of a better description, you're just better than they are. So shout out to you if you went down to Tennessee yesterday, or really for the entirety of the weekend. Shout out to you if you went to Bloomington and hung out for that weekend. That looked outstanding. Noah Eagle's going to join us. NBC and Peacock had the call. We'll talk about Fernando Mendoza now vaulted to the front of the line, or at least a part of the conversation in the Heisman rankings going on right now. Nearly perfect. That offense, nearly perfect. And here's what is great. Play off of what I just said regarding the Colts. And they're 3-0, and everybody feels good. And then I talk about the lack of a consistent or any pass rush whatsoever and what could be against the run because of the lack of the linebacking threat. So I bring up the shortcomings in a 3-0 start. That is exactly the path of the tack that Kurt Cignetti takes. You have a beatdown of number 9, then Illinois, 63-10, and I guarantee you it is all about, hey, this is what you didn't do. This is what you didn't do. This is what has to be worked on. This is what has to be better. Some browbeating going on for a head coach that knows you're as good as what you do in that next game. That next game for IU is Iowa. If you went up to watch Purdue and Notre Dame in South Bend, it took you forever. And considering if you watched Purdue the week prior against USC, that game took forever. I'm assuming if you're a Boilermaker fan, you're probably sick and tired of weather delays. It's weird. This weekend was full of weather delays, lightning delays. Okay, safety and good reason. And full of just awful kicking situations. My kingdom for some field goal attempt protection or execution. How many times are you going to see that? I don't know what is more notable, that or how many times that guys end up hitting the upright. Like Butker last night was a mess for Kansas City, but hell, he banked one in. Incredible the weekend was, and I know that certainly Colts fans, IU fans, have a feel-good mentality for it too. I realize stretch run of the baseball season, and I have noted, I was afraid to turn it over. I was afraid my mere presence would bring a level of bad luck to the Reds. For the first time in my life, for the first time in my existence, there may have been fleeting moments in 1984 with Ryan Sandberg and Bull Durham and Rick Sutcliffe and Lee Smith, maybe fleeting moments where I got interested in and, hey, you know what? That's not bad. The Chicago Cubs. But rarely, if ever, have I been a fan of the Cubs Rarely, if ever, have I cared really what the Cubs have done. And Corey Kinney, who's a friend of the show, can give you a testimonial to that. He consistently sends me all these stats about how great the Cubs are and what the Cubs are doing. And I most notably ignore those stats. But really, for the first time, and if for nothing else, for the first time since I was 14 years old, I have to hand it to the Cubs. I have to give the Cubs credit. I'm a fan of the Cubs. After that sweep over the weekend that it now has vaulted the Reds in a tie with the Mets for that final wild card. And I know what you're going to say. Well, look where the Cubs are in the wild card. They're so much better. And what does this really mean? It does not matter what it means. The fact that they're there and playing for something, if it's one game, if it's half a game, if it's a couple of innings, I don't give a damn. You're there. You're a part of the postseason. Why should I care otherwise? Because frankly, I don't. Now, the unfortunate part of this is I will face the consequences for even bringing it up, because now we know where the Reds are going to go. So the Reds are going to be at home against Pittsburgh. They'll probably get flushed right down the toilet because of that, and because I brought it up. And then the Mets are going to the Cubs, and because I brought up the Cubs and, kind of backhanded compliment for the first time, I was a real big fan. Thank you, Cubs, for that. They'll probably now lose, 7 straight? And lose to the Mets, too. But yeah, yesterday, I kind of felt what you Cubs fans feel. Thank you very much as a Reds fan over the weekend. Yeah, I don't care how they get there. I don't care how they get there. You get a one game and you go in and let Hunter Green pitch it and then see what happens. And I don't care that they swept the Cubs. Normally that would call for a Reds fan flex. It's not that. It's a bigger picture. I've got to see a little postseason positivity. And then Nick Kroll will no longer be Nick the Nerd. He can become a real, live baseball general manager again. All right, we'll hit that. The rest of the NFL schedule from yesterday, too. A lot of close games. It was actually a Sunday, week 3. We felt it wasn't going to be that exciting. As it turned out, it was pretty damn exciting. They'll close out the week coming up later on tonight with the Lions and the Ravens. We've got a busy week for you, too. I am at Pickle on Penn on Wednesday. Shout out to Steve Bodner. I don't think I'm going to hoop on Tuesday night because I hate to say this. Actually, I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm not going to hoop on Tuesday night because I'm going to save myself to play pickleball on Wednesday. All right. Yeah, I know that kind of – normally I'd be saying, yeah, somebody needs to whip me. But now I'm excited about that. Pickle on Penn on Wednesday with Steve Bodner. I'm ready to go. I have never in my life played pickleball, but somebody's ass is ready to be whipped. And I can't wait to do it coming up on Wednesday. So all of you superstar pickleballers out there, including my boss, one of my bosses, whatever layer that is, David Wood. He's going to be there too. And he's this accomplished pickleballer, James. And while I have a great deal of respect for the activity, we'll see. Because all you need to do, you have to have reflexes, right? And I feel pretty good about reflexes.
It's a pretty reflex-heavy game, yeah.
Duran would feel very good about my reflex. True story. Pickle on Penn on Wednesday. Thursday, our Larceny Bourbon Locks and Luna Azul Tequila Shots downtown at the Slippery Noodle. I believe I had a really nice week. And Behringer's, South Meridian, the legendary Behringer's on a Bud Light Blue Friday with Raiders and Colts tickets to give away. That should be fun. All right, quick break. We shall return. Your calls on the other side, 239-1070. Inside the text line, if you want to go there with anything you have to say, that's 317-239-1070 as well. Noah Eagle of NBC, top of the 4 o'clock hour. Stephen Holder of ESPN, 5 o'clock hour. Big week for you, too. Boomer Esiason tomorrow regarding the evolution of Daniel Jones. He would know, being in NYC. Boomer's going to join us on the show tomorrow. Cannot wait for that. And I give a shout out. Did you get a hold of Greg Jennings? Come on, James. Let's go, buddy. Did you get that I sent you, Greg Jennings?
I did, but then I did all the other stuff I had to do this morning.
Well, get on that right now, by God. Greg Jennings is one of the few out there that called this Daniel Jones evolution. And a shout out to SPT that saw it and that sent us a heads up. So we'll have to get the former NFL wide receiver on the show. All right, stream the app, HD Radio, the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Let's get this thing going on a Monday, shall we, at 239-1070. And you also have the possibility of sending us a text via the text line. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Got a joint?
No, not on me, man.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Man in motion across the formation to the left is Calvin Ridley. Shotgun snap to the rookie quarterback. In the pocket, he's dancing. He's got time. Leaks it up. It's picked off. Kenny Moore's going the other way. A house call. An interception and a touchdown. A pick six for Kenny Moore in the left flat. And that's one of the more easier pick sixes you're ever going to see. And the Colts defense starts the scoring party early. It's 6-0.
Hey, welcome back. Matt Taylor. Kenny Moore's going to miss some time here. That sucks. Mike Hilton officially get brought in here, or is that just a rumored signing? Well, we'll follow that because the Colts are in need of some helpers in that secondary. Last memory of the Rams against the Colts, I believe it was his rookie season, was it not? And Puka Nacua was like running wild through the countryside. And in overtime. Running wild and without any resistance. James.
It looks like the Mike Hilton signing is not official yet. I am not seeing anything from the Colts.
Can I make it official right here? I'm going to make it official. Am I allowed to make that official? I can do whatever I want.
It's your show.
JMV, are you going to give Notre Dame their flowers and acknowledge that they're an in-state program, or is today just going to be about where Purdue needs to improve? Well, I really haven't brought up too much about, I think it was more about the weather. My response was probably not, which is pretty good. I think that's a great response. Don't worry, Indy's national brand will continue to help keep your home state relevant. Much love for the Colts, Fever, and the Hoosiers, though. See, that's okay. I got a feeling that everything's pretty relevant around here without Notre Dame. I'm not mad at anybody that's a fan, but there are other things certainly to talk about. The weather was a pain up there. The weather has been a pain for the last 2 weeks for Purdue. But thank you for that text. That is the text line at 317-239-1070. I should mention the Fever in game number 1, Kelsey Mitchell, and I don't want to get into a debate about, well, you like her, you don't like Caitlin, and last week it was about Leah Boston, Natasha Howard. Kelsey Mitchell is a different type of player because Kelsey Mitchell can go anywhere on the floor where she's comfortable and get her own. That's different. And that's what makes her most valuable. That's why she's most valuable. Now, when you shoot it as the Fever shot it yesterday in Vegas against the favored Aces over 50%, she was a huge part of that. I have zero idea what any of the player personnel people are doing in the WNBA that did not identify, evidently, Odyssey Sims as a player that should be on their roster. Odyssey Sims was one of the best players on the floor yesterday. How the hell is she not on somebody's roster? I mean, you just go pick her up like we're playing at Southport on Sunday morning? What the hell? Tip of the cap to the Fever for that, but damn, how are you not available? How are you available? She gets around anybody she wants. Shout out to the Fever for that. JMV, Graham from Avon here. Thoughts on Ballard actually getting the O-line decision-making right by letting Ryan Kelly, injured again, and Will Fries walk and investing in Bortolini and Gonzalez. I will say this, Graham. I know this is going to, again, sound like a backhanded compliment. It sounds like I'm full of backhanded compliments today, and I am not. This is 100% accurate. I don't think you had any choice. And I think when you move forward and found out that these guys could work out in those positions, that to me is as easy, Graham, a call as, oh, look, there's Tyler Warren. He's available when we're picking. Let's go ahead and pick him. I think that's a good plan. You give credit where credit is due, and I'm not taking that away from Chris Ballard, but holy hell. You don't. Sometimes it doesn't take rocket scientists in football to get decisions like that right. Agreed? That's a thought. JMV, Hunter Green versus Paul Skeens on Wednesday. Go Reds. Derek says, RIP to JMV's knees and Achilles if he plays pickleball. I can't believe I'm going to do it, but I cannot go. Pickle on pin. I don't know. See, the difference is when I play pickup basketball, I don't take a case of beer and drink it. Like, I could probably drink some beers and play pickleball and still be pretty good at pickleball, right? I cannot wait to play. Sorry, JMV, you got to be kidding me. Pickleball from a baller? I am a baller. I will always be a baller, at the very least, until I shred this Achilles, which is coming. Mark my words right here. It is coming. I can feel it. But I'm always going to be a baller and a hooper, even when I stink, because I love the game of basketball. I can't wait to play pickleball. Steve Bodner, we're coming with you. Pickle on Pin on Wednesday. Busy week for this show. Hey, I also wanted to remind you before we get to Mike in Brooklyn, you guys love his call. If anybody out there, I wouldn't mind to see a show of hands. I know there's a flight that goes to Southern California on Saturday evening, I think. So if I find out that there's enough people going here, I'm going to give away a pair of passes because Bullseye has a pregame party right across the lake, you know, where the whole NFL Network complex is and SoFi Stadium is. That's where their pregame party's located. And they do it for every Rams, every Chargers home game. So if you're going out, I'm kind of curious how many people are going out. I'm going to see if I can give away some passes to that. If you're going out. Now, obviously, if you're going out, you're already spending a lot of money in doing this anyway. But hell, I'm going to save you some money, give you a nice pregame party to where you can just walk to the venue and watch the game afterwards. Kind of like here. So I do provide helpers on this show constantly. Corey Kinney, noted Cubs fan. Yeah. Calvin Finch chimes in. Titans fans were defeated an hour before kickoff. Then the team followed. Lucas Oil Stadium South was a blast. Then I think every Colts fan stopped. Is it Busey's or Bukies or whatever with the beaver at the, what the hell is that convenience store called?
Bucky's.
One of my friends, I was the best man for Mike Busey. Bucci. How do you spell Bucky's?
Buccee, I think apostrophe S.
Mike Busey, I was the best man for his wedding. One of my best friends, Nikki, and he was a roommate of mine at Indiana State, too. They actually met at one of my pool parties when we were all completely blasted, which I know surprises everybody. I had notoriously awesome pool parties back in the day. But, yeah, I was the best man at his wedding. And as you probably note, maybe got a little tipsy. And my best man speech went on a little too long. And then for the first song for the wedding party, I went over to the DJ table and played Convoy by C.W. McCall. So they all but had to exit me from this wedding in which I was the best man. You ever been a best man at a wedding?
No, but I'm actually going to be at least one of the best men coming up in a friend of mine's wedding here in April.
Yeah, I had to apologize to a lot of people for that one. Clearly, it was not as funny as I felt it was at that moment. Yeah.
I will say, I'm going to try and keep more of a lid on it than you seem to have.
Don't play Convoy as the first wedding track. Okay?
That was not the plan.
No, that doesn't work. Shout out to C. Fitch right there. 239-1070. You've been waiting. Let's go on this Monday. The reaction of the Colts win from Mike in Brooklyn, New York. Hello, Mike.
Hey, JMV, what's up?
Hey, great.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
up, buddy?
Yeah, listen, TCB, that's what it's all about. They went down there on a business trip, took care of business, and I got to tell you, you read my mind. You are spot on. This offense is definitely legit championship caliber, but this defense definitely needs another impact pass rusher.
It does.
And there's zero chance that Ballard is not aware of it because he made the call on Micah Parsons. You know, Ballard is good at churning up the bottom of the roster, you know, and Mike Hilton signing, great job, just like he did with Glowinski. He's great at that. But this is going to go more towards, you know, like ownership. Carly and the daughters, you know, this is the win for Jim year. You know, go for it. Go all in on it. You know, they got a green light Ballard to go do what he's got to do here. And even if you have to overpay, you know, go out, just like Bill Polian did in 2006, gave up the second rounder for Booger McFarland. You know, not something that he would have done, but without that move, the Colts don't win a Super Bowl. So they got to be proactive.
We absolutely are on the same page. Are you on the same page with me regarding? I think that the last two games, if there was a little bit more dedication to the run, that the Colts could find themselves in more of a difficult situation. And maybe yesterday, because the Titans are a mess, it would have never come down to that. But I think the lack of a pass rush or anywhere near a consistent one, and the run game, especially considering the amount of time and effort put into the linebackers, is one that may come back to bite them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the linebackers, you know, to get an off-ball linebacker, and you're going to have to trust Lou Anarumo on that with the corner. With Xavier Howard is a concern. You know, we trust Lou Anarumo. The only good thing is that Lou Anarumo, I think, is getting the most out of his defense, because I can't even imagine what this would look like if it was Gus Bradley or Eberflus as the coordinator.
Well, that's unacceptable. Are you still there, Mike? We lost you for a minute.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Gotcha.
I said I'm not worried too much about. I'm worried about the linebackers a little bit. We got to trust Lou Anarumo, you know, because I think he's getting the most out of his defense. Xavier Howard is a concern, but you know, I can't imagine what this defense would look like if we still had Gus Bradley or Matt Eberflus as the defensive coordinator, and we really don't have to speculate on it. All you have to do is watch the Dallas Cowboys to know what this defense would look like. You know what I'm saying?
100%. 100%. That is a breath of fresh air. I don't want to see two of these categories again that we identify here come back and bite them, and I think potentially both can.
Yeah, and Cam Ward definitely is going to be a problem down the road. They were moving the ball, but you know, you spot on. You know, if you're going to go for it, this is the win for Jim year. Go for it. Go for it. Go get. I was watching the Giant game last night. A guy like Brian Burns would look really nice in a Colts uniform. You know, Latu and JTT. You know, they're developing. They're young. You can't put that on them. And Pay, Ebukam, and Lewis trio is just not going to cut it. You got to go get an impact pass rusher. Definitely 100%.
Hey, Mike in Brooklyn, before I let you go, is there a time, obviously the trade deadline, what comes at the end of October, but let's just say, how good of a start do they have to get into maybe midway through October? Do you think that is something you absolutely have to address right now because there's enough evidence that they're going to be good, or is there still a little bit of proving to do before you decide to make a move or make a call like that?
Yeah, that's a great point. For me, be proactive. Go get get ahead of it. Go do it sooner rather than later, because you want to get him in here and get him, you know, worked up with the system as soon as possible. And Ballard, you know, he's good. He's good at churning out that roster. I know, not giving up, you know, whatever it takes, they have to do it. Just even if you have to overpay, we'll worry about, you know, that other stuff in the off season. Just go out and get an impact pass rusher, Myles Garrett, whoever it is that you identify. I'm all in, and definitely sooner rather than later for me, JMV.
That is Mike in Brooklyn. You guys wanted to hear it. There it is. My brother, I appreciate it. We'll talk to you later on this week, I'm sure.
All right, brother. I appreciate you. Thanks. Take care.
Mike in Brooklyn. You guys love the input from Mike in Brooklyn. I just think, unless we see, at least right now as an unforeseen evolution, that is going to be necessary. Anybody agree? Or are you just happy where they are and everything's good? JMV, I've been one that have been outspoken about you being a drunk. That doesn't make you sound any better. I am not a drunk. I am a social drinker. I was very social at Mike Busey's wedding as the best man. Incredibly social. No, it was a hell of a time. I was forgiven. I think they see, and again, I've said this before, they wanted Moondance by Van Morrison, and I was very anti-Moondance by Van Morrison, so I decided to go ahead and take the initiative and play something else, and it was C.W. McCall, Convoy.
You were trying to do a public service.
Yeah, I go, you know what? Enough of this Moondance crap with this crotchety old dude right here. Let's do something different, and it was Convoy. And it didn't go over well. I don't think it ruined the whole reception, but it didn't go over well. And then my speech that followed up was basically worse. Very lengthy. Bad and lengthy.
Is there a recording of the speech somewhere?
I hope not, but if there is, Lord have mercy. Bad, bad, bad. Quick one, we'll come back. You and I, Noah Eagle, top of the hour, had the call down in Bloomington. IU 63 points on the board in a win over Illinois. Number 11 this week on the road at Kinnick versus Iowa this weekend. Noah Eagles going to join us top of the hour. Stephen Holder coming up after 5. Your calls at 239-1070. The text line 317-239-1070 as well. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
JMV,
I don't understand a word you just said.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Huge play for the Colts. Big loss. Now it's going to bring up 3rd and 12 and move the ball back to the 31-yard line for Tennessee. And Cam Ward had nowhere to go inside that pocket. Ball's on the right hash here. 4 receivers into the pattern. The back left is Pollard. Out of the gun goes Ward. Shotgun snap for the rookie quarterback. Looks left. Still giving ground. Steps up in the pocket. And again he's taken down. This time back to the 25-yard line. And it's Kwity Paye with his first sack in 2025.
Matt Taylor right there on the call, Colts Radio Network. So I talk about how they need an upgrade in getting after the quarterback. And you just kindly play a quarterback sack from Kwity Paye right there. DJ writes this, whoa. Let's pump the brakes on championship talks for the Colts until we play against some teams that aren't garbage. 1-8 for the first 3 opponents combined isn't selling me. I'll enjoy the wins, but waiting for the bottom to fall out. Here's what I'm telling you. And regardless of what James just played in a highlight, doesn't matter. It's still an issue. This is still going to be an issue. And what do you do, DJ? What have we argued over the years that we've always wondered why they haven't done it? Addressing issues. That argument used to be versus the wide receiving room or the tight end situation. You address the shortcomings. I'm not even talking about championship aspirations as much as I'm talking about this is what can make you better. And identifying those issues when you're 3-0 is a hell of a lot better than identifying them when you're 0-3 and down 3 games within the division. So I find zero reason, and it doesn't necessarily for me either, DJ, have to be factoring into any championship dreams or thoughts. It's what you see as a shortcoming, and I just think when you're playing from ahead, it's not a bad time to look at it, unless you believe that this issue is just going to go away and somebody is going to step up. Maybe you buy into what James just played with our re-entry highlight. I don't. So I think it's okay to identify it regardless of the circumstances. JMV, I brought my streak of watching the Cubs lose Jenks to Cincinnati for both Saturday and Sunday. You're welcome. Thank you, Sean Collinsworth. For the first time ever this weekend, I found a reason to really like the Cubs. Shout out to the Cubs. I really enjoyed the Cubs this weekend, and I'm hoping to enjoy the Cubs later on this week when they play at home against the Mets. Thank you, and shout out to the Cubs. For the first time ever, I love the Cubs. So I think it is for the first time ever. Not even in 2016 did I give a semi over what the Cubs are doing. Maybe 84, a little bit of one. For the first time ever. Thank you, Cubs. I really enjoyed the weekend and hope to enjoy later on this week. When Schuler Spreadability, you can enjoy 2025 football season no matter how you're celebrating it. Make sure Win Schuler's and the Spreadability is a part of your snacking or a part of your table. Win Schuler's, find it today in your favorite grocer's refrigerator. On the call for NBC, Noah Eagle was in Bloomington over the weekend. Noah's going to join us next.
JMV.
If somebody gets in your face and calls you a I want you to be nice.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
So the punter out there on the field is Kalen Crimmins. And a bad snap from center. Indiana's going to pick it up. D'Angelo Pines, touchdown! D'Angelo Pines picked up the loose ball that was snapped over the punter's head. And Indiana comes up with an incredible play and the first score of the game.
Don Fisher, voice of the Hoosiers in Bloomington, 63-10. That was the start of something incredibly special in Bloomington this past Saturday with that win over then-ranked number 9 Illinois. IU from 19-11 in this week's top 25. And get Iowa and Iowa City coming up this weekend. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, you saw the call on NBC and Peacock on Saturday evening. From Bloomington, Noah Eagle joins us again on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Hey, Noah, thank you for the time. How are you?
Doing great. Appreciate you having me on as always, and still wrapping my head around the beatdown that we saw in Bloomington on Saturday.
I'm assuming that was something that you were prepared for anything and everything, but something that probably had not been thought about prior to that game was what you were going to witness on the field there.
Yeah, I'd say there was only one person that felt like that was going to happen going into the game, and that person was Curt Cignetti. He was very confident, as he always is, and I think he just feels like his team's going to do that every single time they step on the field. But outside of that, just about the rest of us felt like, you know what, Big Ten battle, big boy football, defenses that should be good. Now, you know, Illinois was missing Xavier Scott, who was an all Big Ten safety or defensive back, I should say, plays nickel mostly, but all Big Ten performer. You lose Miles Scott to a targeting call. There's a lot of factor there, but I don't think that any of that really does justice what happened, and that was just a thorough beating by the Indiana Hoosiers. And give them credit, all three phases of the game, they just flat dominated.
It's Noah Eagle from NBC on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Which one of those phases most impressed you on that Saturday evening in Bloomington, Noah?
I mean, that's like choosing your favorite child. I don't think you can say one was greater than the other. You know, you just heard it started with a block punt by D'Angelo Pons, and he scoops it up for the first score of the game. So special teams working at a very high level. Defense, 7 sacks of Luke Altmaier, and the tackles for losses, and Mario Lando was living in the backfield. They couldn't block. But then you look at the offense, Fernando Mendoza missed 2 passes all game. He had 5 touchdowns for the second consecutive game. The previous week, you say, all right, well, they're playing Indiana State. You know, that's not, and I apologize, but that's not necessarily a football program that is looked at as a vaunted opponent. Well, this was the number 9 team in the country, and to do that with 2 incompletions, 5 passing touchdowns, finding all of his targets, and then in the second half, they just ran the ball. And they ran it right down Illinois' throat and once again had 300 yards on the ground for the day. So it would be impossible to choose one. I just think they had it in all phases. And then yet Curt Cignetti gets to his press conference today and says, we had about 5 busts in the secondary. They only had capitalized on one of them. Can't put that on film. That's going to bite us someday if we keep doing that. So he's still not satisfied, and he never will be until they're at the very mountaintop of college football, and even then, he's probably not going to be satisfied. It's what makes him so good.
No, it's funny, too. The motivating factor in this is always keeping your guys on their toes and never being satisfied. That has been his point since day number 1 in Bloomington, and he never moves away from that, and seemingly that is a formula that works for this program.
It is, and that was the point that he made to us when we met with him this week, because I think a lot of the noise outside is, why are you running up the score on Indiana State? Why are you running up the score on these lower-level programs? Why are you trying to score late against Notre Dame when you're down however many scores? But his point is it's all about forming good habits and culture. So, sure, now you can look at the Indiana State game and say, all right, they didn't have to score 73 points. They shut them out, all of that stuff. You could even look at this game and say, why'd they keep going and trying to score more? But his point is, and this was his exact quote, what happens when they jump up 21-3 on a really good Ohio State team or a really good Oregon team or a really good Penn State team this year, and now you've got to put them away. Because if you're used to relaxing once you've got a big lead, then that's what habits you formed come that big moment. On the flip side, what happens when it's a one-score game in the fourth quarter and you need to go and get a big score? Well, you're used to doing it late in games because you've had guys in there that have had those reps in live game action. So that's the way he's always coached, dating back to his first head coaching job at IUP and then going to Elon and then going to JMU and then all the way here to IU. And every step he's won. I mean, the quote, Google me, has gone crazy over the last year and a half. I think Kurt's probably done with that at this point. Enough people have Googled his name. And so now it's just about continuing to do the stuff that's gotten him there. And honestly, the results speak for themselves.
No, I say this all the time about Kurt Cignetti. One of the best impressions he's made upon me is that he has a blueprint and he sticks to it. And one of those phases of the blueprint is what he has done at quarterback. And he has gone out at JMU and established veteran quarterbacks brought in, and they had levels of success there. He's done the same thing in his first 2 years in Bloomington with what he did with Curtis Rourke a year ago. And now you get Mendoza. Here's what's interesting to me. You knew coming in that this guy absolutely ran for his life a year ago behind that line or lack thereof at Cal. And what you did is you went out and you solidified your offensive line to the point that many down there suggest it could be the best we have seen in a long time. And, you know, you look at the numbers of Mendoza on Saturday and all that factors in to just how effective he was. And you could tell by the look on his face that it was so much different than the talent you saw on the field for Cal a year ago when he was running for his life and being sacked so much to being comfortable, calm, cool, collected, and a great decision maker in the pocket for this Hoosier team.
Yeah, and look, he still had a very productive Cal career. I believe he's still the all-time career completion percentage leader in Cal Bears history, which is saying a lot for a program that had Aaron Rodgers and Jared Goff and some really high-level, high-quality quarterbacks over the years. With that being said, I think the one point you made is correct about the offensive line, and it starts with center Pat Coogan. Came over from Notre Dame, and he has been a difference maker. For Mendoza, their relationship, for the overall offensive line, he brings a ton of experience. He was a starter on a national championship runner-up team last year. That's a huge deal to get a guy like that. And that's not a guy that Indiana would have gotten just 2 years ago, but that's a Cignetti effect. And then you brought up the Cignetti side of things with the quarterbacks. All his JMU quarterbacks pretty much were conference players of the year, offensive players of the year, first team all conference. And they were 4 different quarterbacks in his time at James Madison. So he comes over to Indiana, he brings in Curtis Rourke, and what I think stands out about there's a lot of similarities and a lot of differences from Curtis Rourke to Fernando Mendoza. Rourke was very stoic, very calm, at least externally. And when we talked to Aiden Fisher, you know, he said in practice he would do anything he could to try to see if he could get him rattled. Just anything. He would scream in his face. He would say obscene things. He would try to hit him. He would do whatever. And he said Curtis would never get rattled, at least on the outside. And so there's a presence there. Fernando's different, where he is fiery. He likes to play with his emotions a little bit more outward. He's screaming on the field in practice. He's talking trash with Fisher. So there's 2 different styles of leadership, let's call it, and vocal levels from their quarterbacks. But what I think is similar between the 2 of them is when we sat down with them for the meetings, you could tell they were all about getting better every single day. They were all about being coached at a high level and hard every single day. And talking to Fernando, we asked him first question, tell us, take us through basically what your this process and thought process decision to eventually come to Indiana was. And the first thing he said is, I love my time at Cal, but I felt I needed to be developed more into a refined quarterback. I needed to learn how to play the position in a more refined way. And the best people to help me do that were Kurt Cignetti, Mike Shanahan, and this coaching staff. That's a huge deal. And the fact that that is not just a one-time deal or a 2-time deal, but now 5, 6, 7 quarterbacks deep, where this has been a consistent thing of guys developing. That bodes well for the future of this program.
Yeah, it works too, and not everybody, Noah, is probably a perfect fit for this, but normally the ones that feel they're the perfect fit going in and make that decision to play for him are the ones that most benefit from it, if you know what I mean. Those are the ones that are prepared for it, and that's how you know you've done the right thing in recruiting and bringing guys in when they want that and they fit perfectly within the program, because we see this now in college athletics in general. There is such a short window to make something work, and that is a delicate balance to try to make as a head coach.
It is, but I think exactly what you're saying, and you're around this team enough, you feel that. You feel that these guys are Cignetti guys. And so Cignetti is so smart as well, and he's been very upfront and open about this, dating back to the beginning of last year. All the guys that he takes in a transfer portal they're not just 4 or 5-star recruits now because he can get 4 or 5-star recruits. The transfers that he takes are experienced guys who have played a lot of football, who only have 1 or 2 maybe years of eligibility left. And so it's a lot of filling in the gaps and the holes with guys who have been there before. And that's why their off-season schedule is so rigorous. And that's why he demands so much out of every player on this team every single day, because it's a lot of crash course, so to speak, to get up to speed before the season and then refine. So now here we are in conference play, and they're playing their best football. He feels this is their consistent path every year. And he goes back again to James Madison. This is how it was for their quarterbacks especially, where game 1, struggle a little bit, don't look like you're fully there. Game 2, take a step. Game 3, take a step. Game 4, full go ahead. Full go, full steam ahead. Saw it with Curtis Rourke last year. Game 1, all right, a little wobbly. By games 2 and 3, you're like, I see by game 4, he was dialed. And now Mendoza's the same way, and the rest of the team is the same way. So I completely agree. A culture is built by consistency, by habits, and they have both of those at the highest level. It's just hard to match what they're bringing right now, and it's honestly one of the best stories in sports. For anybody who disagrees, you're just not paying attention at this point.
You in Happy Valley this weekend?
Sure I am, yeah.
I'm curious. Will you watch and call this game with kind of a thought and then a reflection on what you witnessed last week? Because this is kind of what you're held to. If you're a fan of IU, first things first, you got to go to Iowa City coming up at 3:30 on Saturday afternoon. Yeah. But then you have to go on the road to Eugene, Oregon. You're kind of wondering what this team may look like against a higher level team like the 2 you're going to witness on Saturday. Will you judge a little bit from what you'd witness from this team on Saturday to what you're going to call from Beaver Stadium on Saturday night?
To a certain degree, but I think we kind of know what Indiana is just based on this past week and talking to Curt Cignetti as well. He's very honest, very blunt, and so we know what the Hoosiers are. I think I'm more curious what these 2 teams are going to be now this weekend, because to your point, this is their first legit test. Now, Oregon has pummeled a couple of Power 4 teams at this point. Oklahoma State, they sent to a different zip code, basically. This past week, they had a rivalry game with Oregon State and just took them to the back. Same deal with going to Northwestern, which was for them a 9 a.m. Pacific time kickoff, which was a slow start. As expected, once they got into the second half, it was cruise control. And so we know how good Oregon probably is. And Dante Moore has shown that he might be one of the most improved quarterbacks in the country himself. I'm more curious on Penn State because they played 3 games against 3 teams that, as people love to call them in college football, were cupcakes, so to speak, on their schedule. And sure, took care of business, did what they had to do. They didn't look necessarily as dominant as I think a lot of people in State College were hoping they might. The way that they thought they'd hit the ground running, considering how much they have returning from a team that was a Final Four, if you want to call it that, a semifinalist team from a year ago that returns head coach, offensive coordinator, and then brings in arguably the best defensive coordinator in college football, and Jim Knowles, who just led Ohio State to one of the most impressive defensive seasons in recent memory last year en route to a national championship. And so with everything that Penn State has brought back against an Oregon team that looks primed to go back to the playoff for sure, I'm curious to see how both teams fare, especially considering for Oregon and Dante Moore in particular, it's their first time in an environment like this season. That is not a simple environment. It's a whiteout game at Penn State. And you could say the same thing, by the way, for Indiana going to Iowa. And we talked about it a little bit on our broadcast. The Kinnick Stadium is a deceptively difficult place to play. That is not a simple task. And Curt Cignetti talked about it today. He said it's a greater challenge than what they had last week. And I think he's right. Their defense is as well coached as any in the country. Mark Gronowski at quarterback is more dynamic than what Iowa's had in years, honestly, and he's won at a high level at the FCS level. The question to me for Iowa is, do they have receivers that can get separation against this Indiana defense? And I just don't know if there's a general yes across the board. I think D'Angelo Pons can take away half the field. You can scheme up the other half and essentially take away all the options for Gronowski and force them to beat you on the ground, which they've proven they can do in the past, but they don't have Caleb Johnson this year. They don't have a guy who's going to be a first or second round pick on the offensive side this year, a tight end necessarily. So I think we already kind of know what to expect from Indiana. We know they're going to play at a high level every week. I think it's more, what does Penn State look like, and is Oregon as real as we expect them to be?
He's Noah Eagle of NBC and Peacock. He's going to be at Beaver Stadium with Oregon and Penn State. Battle of top 7 teams coming up on Saturday night. IU on the road at Iowa City. 3:30 in the afternoon against the Iowa Hawkeyes. What'd you think of the environment in Bloomington on Saturday night?
It was spectacular. Truly spectacular. The fans showed up early in their seats before kick. I think that's a big key. That's not always the case, and you need that, in my opinion. You need to set the tone, and I give everybody a ton of credit in Bloomington. They came out in droves, and they were into it from the opening kick all the way until the pouring rain came when IU was already up about 40 points. They were awesome, so a ton of credit, and Curt Cignetti has been very open and excited about that himself. You know, we asked Aiden Fisher what the biggest differences from a year ago were. He said, well, first of all, we sell out now. I was like, yeah, that's a legit difference. And he goes, and then, I'll be in, my creative writing class. He didn't say that, but I'm creating that for him. So I'll be in class now, and someone will just come up to me like, Aiden, how are we going to stop the run this week? And I'm like, I have class, It's different. Last year, he could walk around campus in anonymity. That's just not the case anymore. So really cool to see how the community has rallied around this team. And again, super well deserved for the way they've performed.
Noah, it's always a play. Hey, by the way, when did your dad pick up that 70s looking outfit from yesterday? With that was pretty classic stuff. He just had that stuff in a closet somewhere at home?
I can't reveal his secrets. It's like telling somebody a magician's tricks. That would be entirely wrong. But he and J.J. Watt certainly went all in, which, by the way, I was all for. Yeah. I was glad that the NFL Today studio desk did the same thing.
Loved it.
I know Nate Burleson was getting a lot of you-know-what on social media, but he went for it, so I got to give him credit.
Love that. All right, safe travels to Happy Valley. We'll catch up hopefully later on this evening, or season, I should say, Noah. Thank you very much.
You got it. Anytime.
Noah Eagle of NBC and Peacock had the game call. 63-10 IU over Illinois on Saturday. Noah's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I was thinking about this, too. The starting left tackle for the Hawkeyes of Iowa would be one Trevor Lauk of Roncalli High School. I got to get Trevor on the show later on this week. What's up next for IU? Iowa in Iowa City. And then Oregon after that. Oregon, first things first against Penn State, coming up on Saturday night. And again, Noah has the call of that on NBC and Peacock. Kenny Moore, calf injury, Sunday's win. He's going to miss a couple of weeks. And as Ian Rappaport alluded to earlier, they had Mike Hilton, the cornerback, in a couple weeks plus back for a workout. He has been signed, or is going to be signed, evidently, if it hasn't already been done, to their practice squad. The veteran corner, Mike Hilton. Quick break, we'll come back. Stephen Holder about that and more at the top of the hour. Yeah, I was going to bring this up too. Give me a minute. Why isn't anybody talking about how nice it would be if the Colts never cut Isaiah Rodgers? Isaiah Rodgers had a pick six and a scoop and score. Why is nobody talking about Carson Wentz? Somebody gave me grief about my take on Carson Wentz. On Thursday it was. Maybe it was Friday. Whatever day it was. I said, it's not going to be a long-term solution, but for a week I felt it was good to kind of cleanse everybody's mind on J.J. McCarthy and the struggles. It wasn't great, but I thought it did work. Not stratospheric numbers, but it did work. Carson Wentz from McCarthy, and the Vikings get a win at home over the Bengals. A lot of other things happen, as we mentioned. Isaiah Rodgers scoring twice in that game. A couple of those. 239-1070 is the number. Your calls on the other side. The text stream, you can go there as well. 317-239-1070. I shall read. By the way, Ben James is going. Ben is going to meet his college buddies out in Southern California. Ben, you tell me, would you like to go to Bullseye right next to SoFi on Sunday? I have the power. I have been given the power. And I do have some passes to give away this week if you happen to be going to Southern California for the Colts-Rams game. Bullseye has a party right next to SoFi. See if Ben wants to go. That's what we do here. I mean, you make the acquaintance, and we give you things. We give back like nobody does. Stephen Holder, a little bit over 30 minutes from now, will join us. We'll talk about the Colts being 3-0 and now having to make some adjustments in that secondary because of injuries and some of the shortcomings. Two, I think, would be defensively against the run oftentimes and certainly consistent pass pressure. We'll do that with Steven coming up at the top of the hour. Boomer Esiason on the evolution of Daniel Jones. Boomer Esiason joins us on this show. That is coming up tomorrow. The stream, the app, HD Radio, the AAA membership lounge via YouTube Live. Thank you for joining us. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Here's the snap back, and pressure comes. A little screen out here. Nowakowski, the tight end, down to the 20, down to the 10, 5, touchdown! Riley Nowakowski, 43 yards, 48 yards, we should say, for the touchdown run after he caught the football. What a perfect screen pass.
That is Don Fisher, voice of the Hoosiers right there. I'm assuming will join us coming up on Friday, per usual. IU will win 63-10 in a big way in front of a raucous crowd that evidently had one hellaciously awesome weekend in Bloomington. Salute to you. Shout out to J-Law, who called me from inside the stadium at the half on the JMV takeover on Saturday night. All right, here's what I have for you right now, and I'm getting some feedback at 317-239-1070. Now, this would be, and I know this is kind of a unique situation, but bear with me on it. We'll have an all-skate for everybody with Hart tickets for the Fishers Event Center coming up a little bit later on in the show. But this will be for those out there listening right now that may have plans to go to Southern California this weekend. Maybe you're already going. Maybe you have all of a sudden found a level of interest, because I know there's a flight out on Saturday evening to L.A., to go out and watch the Colts and the Rams coming up on Sunday. This does not include game tickets. This is simply, I don't want to say simply because it's a great party, but this is just passes to the Bullseye Event Center party that takes place right next. It's really across the lake. You know where the whole NFL Network complex is? It is across the lake from SoFi. So you walk right over to the stadium. It's the Bullseye party that they have before all the Rams games. I'm going to go ahead and give a bit of a test right here. I'm curious. I've heard from some that are going via the text stream, but I wonder right now if anybody is listening. And make sure you're going. Don't jack with me and then call and try to win these things when you're not going. That defeats the purpose. If you are going to Southern California, let's try this right now. Number 9 at 239-1070. And I will sign you up and get you into the Bullseye eventgroup.com Rams VIP tailgate on Sunday afternoon in Southern California. Now, again, you have to be going. And don't BS me here, because I'm going to put James on this, and James is a great BS detector. I want you to make sure you're going. I talked to Kyle Kinnett, the architect of the Bullseye Event Center here and all the VIP tailgates around the NFL landscape. And he said, you know what? See if people are going and give away some passes. Because a couple of weeks is a long time not to have a home game and not to do it as we normally do here at the Bullseye Event Center. So James will take caller number 9 at 239-1070, and we'll give away a pair of passes for those, for the winners that are going to Southern California this weekend. I am also curious how many of you are going to Southern California this weekend and why I don't hang out with you more. Why is that? And I know I've also heard from some folks, too, on the text line, and I'll get with you guys. No, JJ had mentioned this. Last year, my wife decided that we were going to go on a stadium tour. We are headed to SoFi this weekend to celebrate her birthday, which is on Thursday. We would love to get passes for the Bullseye event. So remind me, write down, you don't have to write down JJ's name. I'm going to double back and get with JJ here for his wife's birthday. See, we give back. Shout out to Kyle Kinnett for that idea, too. I never even thought about it. I go, really? But now it makes more sense because, you know, that could be a weekend getaway location. and your favorite football team is 3-0. So I guess it does make a little bit of sense. If you don't win right now, we'll give you a chance to win. Again, we'll do it all week long, in fact. See how many of you plan on going. Should be a hell of a time. JMV, I like the Reds. 12-8 in the last 20 to beat out the Mets. 7-13 in theirs to get that final wild card spot. They're going to play that best of 3. I don't care if it is a best of a half inning. They're there. Jim McCann in Southern California. JMV, the takeover got us home from the IU game on Saturday night. Thank you, K-Mac. It was a great Saturday night for the JMV takeover. It was. Always. It's outstanding you guys are all going out there, though. Oh, here's one right here. Somebody's going to the Chargers. And see, this is a thought. Chargers game. Is that also is that away this year too, or is that here? Or is that just the general? I thought the Chargers game, I can't remember if it was here or on the road for them this year.
Colts at Chargers, Sunday, October 19th, week 7.
All right. So you're going to have another opportunity for that too. This guy's giving me a heads up. This is a listener who is going to be going to that game from San Diego. Double back with me when we get closer, and we'll make that one happen too for the Chargers game. I completely forgot about that. Well done. JMV, just talked to the Reds. They are selling tickets for this homestand starting at $8 for all games and extending the 3-2-1 deal for the entire series. That's $3 beers, $2 hot dogs, $1 ice cream cups. That's for this series that is a make or break series to make it to the postseason. JMV, where was this last year when I went to the Rose Bowl for the IU-UCLA game? JMV always gives back to the people. Well, we didn't have, I don't think, a gathering or a party before that there. I think Pasadena is a little different from where they are. Where the hell is SoFi? Is that Carson, California, I think? A little bit different. Well done. JMV, more proof is that I'm staying in Redondo Beach. There you go. Hey, let me know, and I'm going to try to get as many people to that event as we can. I had no idea that so many, we got some strong reaction right there. I had no idea so many of you guys are going to be going. So what we do, Stephen Holder coming up at the top of the hour, about 20 minutes away. The Colts are 3-0, but have some injury concerns. One in that secondary with Kenny Moore. He's going to miss some time with a calf injury. Mike Hilton reportedly is in, signing to the practice squad. We'll see about that with Stephen Holder. We'll talk about the offense, certainly of Jonathan Taylor and of Daniel Jones, and a little bit more perspective from somebody that would know. Tomorrow's show, Boomer Esiason, WFAN in New York, the former NFL quarterback who has seen the first 6 seasons of Daniel Jones, and what he has viewed so far in the first 3 weeks of the season with Daniel Jones here as a huge difference. Boomer Esiason joins us for his thoughts on this show coming up tomorrow. Stephen Holder, top of the hour. Heart tickets for the Fishers Event Center we have to give away as well. And not once, not twice, but 3 times. And your chance to play pickleball with me. I'm still a hooper, but I'm going to the house that Steve Bodner built coming up on Wednesday. Pickle on Pin, where I've been told, where I can drink beers and whip some ass at the same time. I'm all for it. That's coming up on Wednesday. Pickle on Pin. Thursday, Larceny Bourbon Locks, Luna Azul Tequila Shots. That's at the Slippery Noodle downtown. And then Behringer's Tavern. That's on South Meridian Friday. Bud Light Blue Friday with your chance at Raiders Colts tickets we shall give away. All right, quick break. We'll return on the other side. Stephen Holder coming up too. If you missed it, Noah Eagle, podcast 1075thefan.com. And the Fever up a game in that semifinal of the WNBA postseason. Impressive performance. Their best player, in my opinion, solidified her position as the team's best player once again. That and more coming up. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Looking for the end zone, he's in! He stretched the ball across the goal line. Touchdown, Michael Pittman Jr. Yards after the catch, 20 yards to pay dirt. Touchdown, INDY.
Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts right there down in Nashville yesterday. Michael Pittman Jr., who was on the show, Colts wide receiver this past Thursday. If you missed that, his excitement of being a part of this team and their start, podcast 1075thefan.com. I mentioned coming up on Wednesday, it is shortened to the nickname Pop. Pop. Pickle on Pen. Shout out to Steve Bodner. That's where we're going. The 23,000 plus square foot facility. Pickle on Pen and Carmel. Yeah, if you want to join and you better and you want to play me, let's do that. I mean, come on, I hoop all the time. What? I think I'm going to be in good enough shape for this, right? James, you think I go out there on Wednesday and immediately start whipping a little bit of ass or what?
With pickleball?
Yeah, no?
I've since played pickleball for the first time, and it might take a little bit of getting used to.
What's it going to be?
There's just some weird rules that you kind of have to remember.
All right, so weird. So I just can't slam it back at people.
No, you can't. You have to let things bounce once, and that's gotten me a couple of times because somebody serves, you think you're going to go up and just slam it.
Oh, you got to let it bounce?
You got to let it bounce one more time.
So it's kind of like slow break basketball. You know what slow break basketball is? Bloomington, Indiana used to have a slow break league, I should say, in the Bloomington Parks and Rec. And it was always awful. You'd have to let everybody cross half court before the ball could cross half court. Slow break. It was a league. It was awful. You just can't run up there and slam it, huh?
No, you can't. Right. You can't spike it on people.
That's cool.
Like that.
I'll adjust. I'll be ready to go.
I think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll.
Is there a lot of movement?
There is a good amount of movement.
Will I bend? Do I need to stretch?
You especially with your calf, may want to do some stretching.
Wrap everything up and be good to go. I'm just going to come in the basketball gear. Can't wait. Pickle on Pen Wednesday. If you want to play me, play me. JMV, how about a 107.5, 93.5 The Fan charter round trip to L.A. for the Chargers game? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if those down the hall would agree with that or not. I don't know. It's a hell of a plan you're asking me right there. I don't know how much agreement there is going to be. But, yeah, we'll try. Try to accommodate everybody. JMV, the Indiana Hoosiers football team plowed down the Illini like a drunk guy who fell from row 33, plowed down 4 rows. Did a drunk guy really fall? Matt? The only difference is the Hoosiers didn't get cut off. They kept plowing. Did somebody really fall? Just out of curiosity. Thank you, Matt. JMV, I tore my Achilles playing pickleball. We've talked about it. Did it last June to get plenty of stretching and warm up before playing. That's Adam in Whitestown. That's scary right there. JMV, Irish fans calling in all butthurt. IU back to the playoffs, Indy not. Well, I don't think they're calling in butthurt or anything. I think they just want me to talk about Notre Dame. JMV, so I go to the Reds-Cubs game yesterday. Place was not even half full, and the majority of the people were there to watch the Cubs. Hopefully they have a great week because I think they'll be a team to fear in the postseason, Jeff. There is zero trust. You're not talking about the goodwill that the Colts are trying to create, construct, and build with the fan base right now. It's like the conversation Jake and I in the crossover. Jake had said earlier that he said, I think we owe the Colts an apology. I think it was more pointed to the lack of confidence in Daniel Jones. And as I mentioned, and this is not me trying to be a jackass of any kind, but no, you don't owe them an apology. And that wasn't Jake's point. That was somebody else's. But you don't owe them an apology. This is how it's supposed to look. This is how they have told people it was going to look for years. And through the first 3 games of the season, that's the way that it has been. Yeah, you don't owe them an apology. You've been there, you've gone to games, your disposable income. The advertisers have been all in. No, this is how it's supposed to be. They owe you. Seriously, they owe you. You don't owe them, they owe you. And hopefully they can continue to pay that back. That's the way it should be. When Schuler's spreadability is back for the football season of 2025, original bacon and cheddar, sharp cheddar, jalapeno pepper, the spreadability is back. And I know at your local Meijer, you're going to find it there. The Greenwood Meijer had ample selection of Win Schuler's spreadability. Make sure you have it if you're snacking for the football game later on tonight, or if you got a tailgate party this weekend. The spreadability of Win Schuler's. Find it in your favorite grocer's refrigerator. Noah Eagle, a little bit earlier from NBC, had the call of Illinois and IU on Saturday. Stephen Holder was in Nashville. The latest on the length of the Kenny Moore injury, how long he is going to miss. Mike Hilton being a part of the equation now on the secondary. And overall, the offense has not clicked at this level since ... We'll talk to Stephen Holder about that next.
JMV.
You take drugs, Danny?
Every day.
Good. So what's the problem?
I don't know.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
We'll give you an update on Alec Pierce coming up after the 2nd down and 4 play for the Colts. They have it at the 46-yard line of Tennessee. Daniel Jones under center, I formation. Tyler Warren is the H-back. They give it to Taylor right up the gut, big hole, 40. Cuts back to his right. Spinning upfield, still going. Slips out of a tackle. He's at the 20. He's at the 10. He's at the 5. Touchdown! Jonathan Taylor rips it from 46 yards out. Touchdown, I-N-D-Y. Yes, sir. 33-13 in favor of the Colts.
Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts, Colts Radio Network. You had the grunt of our good friend Charles Arbuckle, who's going to join us later on this week. Colts Radio Network and the Colts all over Tennessee yesterday to move to 3-0. You did mention, Matt, during that piece, an update on Alec Pierce. Concussion protocol for Alec Pierce. Kenny Moore is going to miss some time. Mike Hilton, who was worked out more than a couple of weeks ago, evidently has been signed by the Colts. And then also, according to Matty Matt, some drunk guy did fall from row 33, down 4 rows on Saturday in Bloomington. I did not. Everybody is saying that Matt is accurate. Somebody fell. I don't know how far the fall was, but kind of like a bowling pin type of situation with the drunk guy. Nobody got hurt, according to Matt. That's good. On the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, speaking of hurt, a couple of situations here. And from ESPN and ESPN.com, Stephen Holder joins us. The amount of time for Kenny Moore, the expectation he'll be missing. What are you thinking?
I don't think, at least at the moment, that we're talking about a very lengthy absence. They are not putting him on IR, so that's good. That was asked directly to Shane Steichen earlier by KB, I believe, and he said that that's not a consideration at the moment. So it's all good news there. At least that's the best possible news, right? Because they were looking at his Achilles area when the trainers were looking at him initially. And that made me nervous, as it should, because, we know Achilles around here, right? In this town, this particular year in particular, this summer, right? And, calf injury, Achilles injury, that area just makes you nervous. So they don't think it's going to be serious. But I would say the smart thing to do is to take your time and make sure he's okay. So, that calf injury doesn't become something else, if you know what I'm saying.
So it shouldn't be surprising Mike Hilton, who was worked out weeks ago, is in here, knowing his relationship and his connection with defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think this was somebody they were interested in even before this, as you said. And look, Lou Anarumo likes familiar faces. There's no question about that. And he likes veteran players too. So here is a guy who has played for him for a long time. Look, he is not the player he used to be. I believe he was in camp with the Dolphins, if I'm not mistaken, and did not ultimately make that final roster. You can deduce from that whatever you like, because that's a pretty bad secondary. But, maybe this is a more appropriate system for him to play in, and he certainly has familiarity. And the Colts need the help right now, so it makes some sense, I would imagine.
This is Stephen Holder of ESPN and ESPN.com. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We're going to stay with the positive vibe. They're 3-0 and feel good. They go to Southern California coming up on Sunday. However, a couple of areas that I think are worthy of discussion, and I don't know what you feel about this. We talked about this last week. I thought Denver was really confident in running the football and did it well and probably could have done it more. I thought Tennessee, if they weren't such a grease fire in general, probably could have ran the ball more and positively had they decided to do so and not gotten in their own way. I don't know how much they would have gotten out of it, but certainly I think they could have done it productively. So that would lead me to believe that maybe the Colts against the run game could be problematic, and we'll talk about the linebackers or lack thereof. And then also at another point, Stephen, that should be made, I think there's going to be a moment to where the lack of a pass rush, if not certainly a consistent pass rush, is really going to bite them. And are these situations to where when you're playing from in front during a season for the first time, that you would be okay if they were dealt with some sort of fashion other than just kind of going with and hoping the evolution of your own happens from within?
So I think of those two things, the thing that perhaps most concerns me is the pass rush, because I think that's the thing that can hurt you more. Okay, so that's if I had to prioritize those things in terms of the one that is most urgent for me is pass rush, and I think when you look around the league and you see what can happen, I think Bo Nix is a good example. You see what can happen with even just a marginal quarterback when he's got a lot of time to work. You see what he can do. I mean, Bo Nix is no Josh Allen, okay? And I thought he was pretty effective last week. And let's be honest, I mean, the Colts had to they had to kind of luck their way into that thing, to get away with that victory. So there was a lot of comfort for Bo Nix in that pocket last week. Way too much when you consider, okay, here's my problem with this. The Colts, they are top 3 in spending on their defensive line. They are beyond heavily invested. It is the most heavily invested part of the roster. You got to get production. Getting Latu back yesterday was big, and that was a much better performance. And Latu, while he didn't get the sacks, he definitely was a presence and had a presence in that game. Now he's got to take it to that next level because he's the guy that has to make this happen because no one else is really, in my estimation, from what I see, no one else is really got like that next gear. I mean, DeForest Buckner on the interior does, and I still believe he's one of the finest defensive tackles in the league. But that edge rush in particular is the concern for me. They got to have more of it. So that would be my concern. I mean, against the run, I think they've been okay. They haven't had a ton of explosive runs, so I think I can live with that. But you definitely got to hold the line there and not let that become an issue.
I just think if teams were more focused on pounding it, that they would get something out of it. We just haven't seen teams really really stick to
what's
it.
Happened. You know what's happened too is that they have in 2 of the 3 games they've had a big lead.
Right.
So those teams haven't been able really to throw the ball. So maybe it hasn't been tested like it might be. Against a team like the Rams, for example, who Sean McVay believes in running the football, and he's got an offensive line that can get up and get in your face and really cause problems. So there will be tests to come, and I don't want to be that guy who says, they haven't played anybody. Although I don't think Denver is nobody. I think that's a really good win. But look, the Dolphins have a lot of problems. Tennessee is an absolute dumpster fire. Okay, that is a bad football team, and I don't know what in the world Brian Callahan is doing. That guy was getting booed out of the stadium yesterday. He's got a lot to deal with there. However, that being said, those were decisive wins, and they handled their business, which is not something that we can always count on this team doing. But there will be tougher tests, and those areas you brought up, I think those are the things they got to watch because you can never get too high or too low, and this is one of those times when that has to be kept a priority.
Yeah, it just kind of makes you wonder if and when they address it. And I've always said, now is, I think, a great time to really look long and hard at it when you're, at an advantage record-wise as opposed to because we've seen so many times in the past, normally this thought process is going on when you're working from behind.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. So I do think they got to take a look at some things. They've blitzed certainly more than they did under Gus Bradley. I'm talking more the pass rush here. They have blitzed obviously a little more than you would expect, with Gus Bradley as defensive coordinator. But not they're not one of the biggest or not one of the most aggressive rush teams or blitz teams in the NFL either. So right now they're blitzing more, but maybe not as much as I thought they might. So we'll see if those numbers tick up at all in the coming weeks. I'm not sure how they'll do that, but that's something to watch. Just if you can't get the pressure in an organic fashion, right, with four down rushers.
Stephen Holder's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, and I know that the concussion protocol, as we witnessed in the past and most recently with Charvarius Ward, can be tricky. The impact this week and maybe being without Sunday, that of wide receiver Alec Pierce.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you watch the game on Sunday, you have to appreciate the kind of contributions that he's made. He was, I think you could argue, their number one receiver at times in that game, and was probably going to be their leading receiver for the day had he not had to leave the game there. So I actually think it's great because Alec Pierce, I think he's perhaps been underutilized, and I think right now you have a quarterback who's capable of getting everybody involved. That's one of the strengths of Daniel Jones, I believe, is just his ability to just throw the ball to whoever makes sense, who it makes sense to throw it to. He's not staring down one particular receiver. If that first read's not there, he's on to the second, and the ball is out. Like, he's not screwing around, and that's one of the reasons teams haven't been able to sack him. But anyway. But as it relates to the wide receiver situation, I think A.D. Mitchell's going to have to step up. Tyler Warren takes some of the heat off, clearly, his presence. But A.D. Mitchell, I think he's showing a little more. I like the way he has started. I've been very critical of him in the past, and I don't regret that. I think last year he just was not reliable, period. Okay? Every time they needed a play from him, he failed. So this year, maybe he doesn't have huge numbers, but he has established himself as a threat. You see he's drawing those pass interference penalties, a big one yesterday. That's not his first one. I mean, he has had a few of these now where defenses, they don't want to give up the big play to him either. They know what he's capable of. So that presence, I think his ability to do that, it kind of compensates if you lose Alec Pierce for a week or so, because he has a skill set that can replace what Alec Pierce does in theory.
So Stephen Holder of ESPN and ESPN.com. He is on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Do you think the play of Daniel Jones is exactly what they expected, or do you think that the Colts organizationally and coaching staff-wise are not as taken as some of us are with how he's executed, how good he has been, but maybe even slightly surprised at all he has accomplished through the first 3 weeks of the season in leading this team?
So I've thought about this, and look, Shane Steichen is definitely smarter than me. Let's hope, okay? And so, yeah, he had some indications, and he had some inclinations, without a doubt. I've tried to pin him down on this, and he won't say. But I don't believe he expected this. I refuse to believe that. Okay? Now, I would say this. Daniel Jones was giving all of the signs that Shane Steichen was looking for in terms of having the command of the offense, having the studiousness to go out there and have a grasp of everything that they were trying to do. So he is talking the same language and singing out of the same hymnal, if you will, as Shane Steichen, and that's saying something because Shane thinks at a very high level and is a fast processor of this stuff. I try to talk football with him, and I'm like, bro, you got to slow down, okay? Slow down. Like, you lost me like 60 seconds ago, okay? So anyway, Daniel Jones can keep up, and he's at that very high level when it comes to the acumen. But that has nothing to do with can you throw the ball accurately? Can you make athletic plays? Can you do all of these physical things that have nothing to do necessarily with the mental? That's where I had the doubts. I didn't have any doubts about the mental. He has proven he's off the charts there. But the physical is where I had doubts because, I mean, we just didn't see this guy operate this way in New York. I think it boils down to this. And this is something that you could not really put your finger on before the season. He is comfortable. He trusts his offensive line. He is a cool customer back there. That man was terrified playing for the New York Giants because he was under assault. And I think that has a lot to do with it. He is just a different guy playing in this offense with that offensive line and a coach who has empowered him.
Does this have the opportunity, the success of Daniel Jones, to erase the mistake that was Anthony Richardson?
I mean, we'll take it week by week, but I mean, I think here's what we can say. The words Anthony Richardson don't come up a lot right now, right? And I think people don't care, man. You know what? People, they want a team that wins. And fans are pretty forgiving if you give them what they want. I really believe that, and the Colts fans have been through a lot. They've seen a lot. I've had a front row seat for all of it. Believe me, it's aged me too. Okay. But I would say my observation is that fans are pretty forgiving and they stay in the moment, and people are in the moment right now, and if you give them something to cheer for, they're not going to focus on a missed draft pick or what you did last week or last year or 2 years ago. They're worried about what's happening right here and right now. And I think Colts fans are there. I think they are in the moment and they'll worry about, the future in the future. But right now they love what they see. And I would leave you with this. If we're talking about the long term, I've had conversations with Shane Steichen where he even broached the topic of why can't Daniel Jones, be our quarterback down the line if this works out? That was before the season even. So, I mean, he was already there. Hey, if this works out, why can't we keep him? So I mean, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thought to have right now.
Listen, I know that we're oftentimes trying to get well ahead of everything, and they're just 3-0. And the truth be told, there's one win between the first 3 wins that they have. Their competition, big test coming up this weekend. But as far as making that longer term commitment, what would the Colts just go ahead and push all that to the end of what they hope to be a successful season, or would they think about doing that before this season ends? Just out of curiosity, because, I mean, really, this is fresh new territory that we haven't been down this path in a long time. And, considering what has been unevenness at that position here, and certainly what has been unevenness to the depths of what he has done in his first 6 years in New York compared to where he is right now, you kind of often wonder about the stability and the thought of longer-term stability on both sides.
Yeah, that's fair. First off, from a logistical standpoint, there are some restrictions on what you can do contractually because he just signed a contract. So in the 2025 league year. So my understanding of that is there are some restrictions, and it gets kind of technical, but there are some restrictions on whether you can add an additional or add a length to that contract right now. I don't mean right now. I mean this year, before the season is over. So we'll have to see how that goes and what they're able to do, because I'm not entirely sure they can, just by the letter of the law, okay, in terms of league rules. But that being said, they have a couple things at their disposal. He's their player, so they can negotiate with him before he gets to the open market in the spring. Just very, very hypothetical, okay, right? But let's just play this out, right? If Daniel Jones is who he appears to be, and he has to prove that. He's got to prove that over the next 14 games. When you don't just crown him after 3 games, but if he proves it, the Colts have a couple things going for them. Like I said, he is their player. They can openly negotiate with him long before he gets to the open market, so you have the upper hand there. Number 2, you have the franchise tag. It's expensive, okay? But so is not having a quarterback, right? So they have a couple things going for them, and I think if he proves that he's worthy of bringing back, I think the odds are he will be back, because I think Shane Steichen's mind has already been there. Has already gone there.
So Stephen Holder of ESPN and ESPN.com. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. 3-0 the Colts on the road in Southern California against a Rams team that probably will be smarting today. And certainly the bettors that took the points in the Rams yesterday with that bad beat are probably smarting equally as well. The level of this offense, and especially the level of the offense, Nakua has been a guy, we've seen him before. He torched the Colts in the secondary here before. But the addition of Devontae Adams and what this team looks like offensively to start with, what the expectation is coming up on Sunday in L.A.
It's a big challenge. Look, that loss yesterday was terrible, but, that's what happens when you're playing the world champs, So, look, I mean, they're not happy about it, but, I mean, those things happen when you're playing a champion, So, I don't think any less of the LA Rams right now necessarily. I mean, that was a tough situation. But it's a bad loss, and they'll, as you said, they'll be smarting from it. You got a veteran quarterback, okay? That guy will not be phased. You have a coach who is a cool customer. He will not be phased. So, yeah, I mean, you better be ready for their best effort next Sunday from the Rams. And they have guys, they have weapons, they have a quarterback who will make you pay, okay? I don't care how old he is. You mess around and you make a mistake, and Matt Stafford will make you pay. So this is the biggest test, I think, so far. No question about it. I like Denver's defense, and that was a good matchup, and they passed that test against their defense. But going out on the road against this offense and a team with some defensive playmakers as well, this is going to be their toughest test.
Well, and let's start here before I let you go and share verse. I mean, not only does he play a really high-quality, high-level game, but he can also talk a big game out there too.
He's a hell of a player, man. He is one hell of a player. And I think this offensive line has done the job. There's no question about that. Even Miami, that front four, very good, even though the defense overall, I mean, absolute, tire fire. But I think we've hit dumpster fire and tire fire in the same segment. But that Denver front is very good. The Denver defense generally is very good. And the Colts have held up. So they've passed every test so far. This is going to be another one, though, and that's the thing, right? There's no week off. Every week there's some premier pass rusher on the other side in this league, and you got to man up and you got to block them. So, but the kudos to this offensive line. We would not be having these conversations without these guys, and I have to give them their due because that was a question. We've talked a lot about the offensive line this offseason. I personally thought we weren't talking enough about the offensive line because you were replacing 2 guys with 2 second-year players, one of whom was changing positions in Gonsalves, and I just don't think you can just rubber stamp that and say, they'll be fine. Based on what, right? You had to see it. And what we have seen is pretty good. So kudos to those guys.
I will say this, and in closing really quickly here, is you think there's more of a challenge and a gauge because we do this now. The believability is not totally there with a 3-0 start, but it keeps climbing in a ladder type of fashion. Is more of a challenge there for this Colts offense and what the Rams present defensively, or for the Colts defensively, especially now being a little bit banged up, and then what this Rams offense and Sean McVay can do?
Yeah, that's basically what is the bigger test for the Colts offense.
Yeah, because
Colts
it's a
defense,
constant gauge,
yeah.
but which is the larger gauge with this game on Sunday?
I would say I have more questions about the defense right now, and I did not anticipate that. I'm not saying the offense is going to go out there and continue the tear that they've been on, out in LA. I mean, they're going to come back down to earth at some point, right? I mean, they're not going to score 40 every week. I mean, that's ridiculous. But I mean, they have a lot to work with offensively. They're getting production from everybody. So I think even if the run game has a bad day, the passing game still has a lot of potential. If the passing game struggles, Jonathan Taylor's on fire. You've got go ahead and take away Tyler Warren. Okay, fine. Michael Pittman is playing great football, and those wide receivers, they're balling. Defensively, I don't think you have as much margin for error right now. So that's where my bigger concern would be. But they should have I thought that's where the talent was on this team, but I don't know. I still think the jury's out on this defense, and we'll have to see. But they did their job yesterday, but this is a bigger test coming up. And for me, that's who I'll be watching in this game.
Stephen Holder of ESPN and ESPN.com. No other injuries that we did not talk about, right? Most notably Alec Pierce, the concussion protocol, and that of Kenny Moore, right?
Yeah, none that I know of. So I mean, there's probably some bumps and bruises. We had a couple last week with Downs and Tyler Warren, but they were minor, as it turned out. So I think they're okay. I think they're okay. So it'll be a big game coming up.
Appreciate you, Stephen, as always. We'll talk to you next Monday.
All right, you got it.
Stephen Holder of ESPN and ESPN.com is on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Jonathan Taylor has been so good so far, and I guess you've had an oh wow moment. For me, there hasn't still been that oh wow moment. He has just been consistently top shelf. And so much can be said about what he has accomplished, what he has done, how he has produced, to exactly how good Daniel Jones has been under center for this team. That and more on the other side. We mentioned IU a little bit earlier. Noah Eagle joined us from NBC. He was on the call, the play-by-play call in the IU win over Illinois this past Saturday. Podcast 1075thefan.com. Heart tickets for the Fishers Event Center before we're out of here. Maybe some more bullseye passes if you're going to Southern California coming up on Sunday for the bullseye party right next to SoFi Stadium out there. And Boomer Esiason on this show regarding Daniel Jones coming up tomorrow. The Stream, the app, HD Radio, the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
think I'd join this crummy snobatorium, but this whole place sucks. That's right, it sucks.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Here we go in Philadelphia. Lincoln Financial Field rocking. 3 seconds left. Rams down 1. Joshua Carty to win it for LA from 44 yards. Snap, hold, right-footed boot, blocked again! It's blocked again! The Eagles scoop it up. They're going the other way to clinch it. Jordan Davis returns it with an exclamation point. The Rams squander a 19-point second-half lead. They have their last 2 field goal attempts blocked. The first by Jalen Carter, this one by his fellow defensive tackle, Jordan Davis, who adds insult to the injury by returning it for a touchdown.
Rams radio, and perhaps the bad beat of the bad beats of 2025 right there. That's next up for the Colts against the Rams, and that team should be salty. 33-26 is the final. That is not good. Anybody else out there have the Rams and the points? And that's the only way that if you had that angle, you were going to lose. And that's exactly how you lost. Rams 2-1 of the season. The Eagles 3-0. And again, the Rams host the Colts coming up on Sunday. Jim McCann just sent me, that's our good friend Jim McCann from Southern California. He sent me the stakeout location for Bullseye and the VIP tailgate in Southern California right next to SoFi. I just sent that out, or re-exed it, if you will. It looks awesome. And if you're going out there, we're going to be sending people not out there via flights and tickets to the game, but if you're already going out, if you have a flight, if you're going to be in Southern California, you plan on going to the game, I'm going to give you a chance to win passes to go to the Bullseye Event Center while you're out there prior to the game on Sunday. Jim McCann writes this. That's what you're talking about right here, my friend. You absolutely give to your listeners. Bullseye VIP tailgate. It does look pretty damn awesome. Skivvy says, so Daniel Jones has the spreadability. He does so far. JMV, let's give credit where credit is due. Reggie Wayne, the wide receiving core has been subpar at best these last few years. This year, they're looking a lot better. Pittman, Downs, Pierce, Mitchell, viable options. That plus the most underrated player in the league, Jonathan Taylor, going off, no doubt. Daniel Jones is doing well. Sign Reggie to a long-term deal. P.S. I'm in love with Carly Gordon or Ursay Gordon on the sidelines. Can you introduce us? Andrew. That's unusual. Funny, but unusual. JMV, dumpster fire and entire fire are great. I like the campaign for Hobo Hump House. Well done. To figure out what that one means. Hey, JMV, the national shows give IU more love in the last couple of days than I've ever heard before in football. Who'd have thought? Schedule is set up great. Iowa City next week. Then a bye week and the biggest game to date against Oregon. It's Josh in Mooresville. Yeah, should be fun this weekend if you plan on going. A lot of people. I did not know there are so many people going to Southern California for this. Well done. Nice job. Go out there and have yourself a good time. Derek White says, I'll be at the Bullseye. I don't think Bullseye's having an event in Berlin. I don't think they're going. Josh writes this, I've got the feeling being only a game back, the Diamondbacks are going to leap the Mets and the Reds. Well, if the worst case scenario can happen, Josh, it will probably occur if you're a Reds fan. Again, I want to thank the Cubs for the first time ever. For the first time ever, I've liked the Cubs. Thanks for the weekend in Cincinnati, Cubbies. And then I can like them even more this week because at Wrigley Field, they host the Mets. For the first time ever. I turned the game on, I think for the final out. I was a little apprehensive about doing it because sometimes I do bring the bad luck, and I didn't want to bring the bad luck. Thus, I didn't. I think it was PCA that got caught looking to end it yesterday. Shout out to PCA. The end of week number 3 of the NFL season later on tonight, the Lions and the Ravens will be a strong part of that. And by the way, too, Fever, Kelsey Mitchell backed up while I've suggested that she is the best player on that team, can get her shot off, can get to her comfortable positions on the floor because of her quickness and that left hand. And she was awesome yesterday. And so was Odyssey Sims. Up a game, best of 5 WNBA semifinals. The Fever over the Aces, same two teams coming up in Vegas. That is tomorrow night, matter of fact. Yeah, hell of a weekend all the way around. The Browns a winner over the Packers. Another block kick situation. Carson Wentz, a couple of touchdown passes, 173. Isaiah Rodgers, the former Colts DB, a scoop and score, a pick 6 for the Vikings, 48-10 over the Bengals, James.
Did you do a welfare check on Brent Holverson to make sure he's okay?
It was not a good Sunday for Brent. Buccaneers 29-27 over the Jets. The Commanders behind Marcus Mariota, 41-24. Hey, I did get like 20 points out of Drake May yesterday for the Patriots. I needed it too. Look at my roster in fantasy football. I have a chance. I think all I need tonight is to score like 5 points. I have Laporta and I think Bates going tonight. All I need is like 5 points. I am my fantasy team's a mess. It's a good thing that I drafted like drunkenly 4 quarterbacks because I needed all 4 of them. They're hurt. Tyrone Tracy's hurt. Everybody's hurt. Niners 16-15 over the Cardinals. We'll see the Cardinals coming up in the next 2-3 weeks. Yes, James?
You need 9 points.
9 points.
Between Sam Laporta and Jake Bates.
9 points between a tight end and a kicker.
That's doable. That should be doable.
I think I have an 88% chance to win. If I don't, then just simply put, I'm one hell of an unlucky human being. 31-14, the Bears. How about the game for Caleb Williams? 298, 4 TDs. I had that picked accurately. Sorry, Jeremiah. The Seahawks 44-13 over the Saints. Chargers come from behind 23-20. That was my pick of the week. I think that was a 2.5-point favorite were the Chargers. Well done out of me. Panthers over the Falcons. I did not see that coming. That's the Berlin game for the Colts. The Falcons coming up in November. Well, that is a look from week 3 on a Sunday. Quick break. We'll come back at 239-1070. Your chance to win Heart tickets and your chance to get on the show as we close it out. Boomer Esiason coming up tomorrow. Greg Rakestraw coming up tomorrow. And more of the angle on the Colts and the Rams. Obviously, IU and then some on tomorrow's show. And 3 times we're on the road, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I shall explain as we close out the show coming up next. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
him a second to get on the stool because he's under 5 feet tall.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, Hart, the band, Fisher's Event Center. Who wants to go? Number 9 at 239-1070. March the 15th? It's a ways away. I saw Fisher's Event Center is having another show coming up in February. I think it's the Gin Blossoms and Blues Traveler. This Hart, number 9 at 239-1070. You are going to go on us. March the 15th. That's on a Sunday of 2026. The injury report on my team, and I have a chance. I got to give a shout out here before we bail. Billy said, I'm the clown, JMV, that you're going to beat tonight because I reminded you to look at your team on the JMV takeover Saturday night. And thank you very much, Billy. You did. Let's see. The injuries I have. Well, I have Drake May as my starter at quarterback because Jaden Daniels is injured. J.J. McCarthy is injured. And Tua's Tua. Now, Tyrone Tracy injured. Is this Samson dude for let's see. Is he injured? I want to make sure. I think Dylan Sampson, was he injured too? The running back for the Browns. Xavier Worthy has been injured. Jaden Reed injured. This is my team right here. It's been an absolute mess. And I just need 9 points tonight.
If you get those 9 points, is that your first win of the
It'll
season?
be my first win of the season. I'm assuming if I don't get 9 points tonight, I may not win this season. And I'm almost lucky that I drafted 4 quarter because I've needed them. It's incredible. Bad, but incredible. Thank you very much. JMV, you want to hear unlucky in fantasy? I just traded Jamar Chase for CD Lamb, and Lamb gets hurt on the first play while acting like a running back. A week after losing Burrow for the year. That is pretty bad. JMV, the Pacers' magic extending to all things Indiana, the Colts, IU, the Fever. We shall see. Guys have been great today. More bullseye passes. If you plan on going to Southern California and you want to go to the Bullseye Event Center out there next to SoFi for their VIP party before the Colts-Rams game on Sunday, I've got your passes later on this week. Pickle on Penn on Wednesday. I'm going to play pickleball against all of you all, so join me there. I'm going to drink beer and play pickleball. Thursday, the Slippery Noodle, Larceny Bourbon Locks, Luna Azul Tequila Shots. Friday, Behringer's Tavern, Bud Light Blue Friday with Raiders and Colts tickets. James, great job out of you. Colts Roundtable's coming up next. Boomer Esiason on this show coming up tomorrow. Don't miss that. Have a great night. Enjoy Monday Night Football. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.